In this video, we'll explore the 4 truths of authenticity. Hello, so I've been wanting to do a video on this topic because it's one that I have struggled with in my life, and I think I have a theory. Oh, that's my cat. She has a theory too. She cracks me up. Anyway, I have this theory that it's a little bit easier for younger generations to be more authentic. They've grown up in an era of social media. They've grown up in an environment where sharing often and sharing a lot, sharing deeply and openly is a regular part of their life. However, those of us who are closer to my age, I won't share what age that is, but I am of a different generation. I'm Generation X. We struggle with authenticity a little bit more. We grew up in a world where whenever you did present yourself, it had to be polished, it had to be perfect. There was a lot of image management involved in my life growing up and in my young adulthood, especially being in the marketing and public relations field. So being real and authentic is not something that comes naturally in a public forum to me, and I'm willing to bet for others of my generation, and maybe some of the generations that came before. So I wanted to explore this topic a little bit more, both to get a sense of what I believe about it, and to open up the discussion with you guys of what you think about authenticity and how authenticity has evolved in our culture. So, to set the stage for this topic, I am actually filming without makeup, without wearing anything fancy or, the nicer blouses and the colors that I typically use in my videos. It's just me, raw, unfiltered. Here I am. I thought this would be a kind of a fun way to help set the stage for this discussion. So, I'm thinking about authenticity and delving a little bit deeper into my thought process around it and my beliefs around it. I've come up with 4 truths that I believe underscore how important authenticity is in our lives and how we can help incorporate it more into our lives, especially if it's not something that comes very natural to us. It's a bit of a catch-22 and a conundrum in that in order to be more authentic, it's a bit of a comfort stretch. It takes us outside of our comfort zone. So there's almost a sense of being forced about it, which takes away some of the spontaneity and some of the authenticity. So I'm not quite sure how to resolve that bit of a struggle. I think it's just jumping in and doing it. And probably the millennial generation, my children, and those who were born after 2000, and especially a little bit more into the 2000s, I do believe it becomes so much more natural for them. And I love watching videos of younger people, and I love how open they are, and it's such a refreshing way of living in the world, and I love that we're moving in that direction. And so those of us who are more of the dinosaurs who come from a different era, we need to play catch up, but it's not a bad thing at all. In fact, it's a wonderful thing, and I think it's going to add a lot of dimension and richness to our lives that we have not had an opportunity to experience. So with that said, here are my 4 truths about authenticity. Truth number 1, perfection is overrated. This is a hard one for me to grasp and wrap my mind around. And apparently, I don't know if you can hear my cat in the background, but she's whining pretty loudly. So I think she has a problem with this one too. Anyway, perfection is overrated. So when we force ourselves to be perfect, first of all, there's no such thing. So you're automatically setting yourself for a certain level of failure, which is frustrating. It becomes a block. It becomes a boundary. It's something that we stumble over. That's not to say, perfectionism is very different than excellence. I do think we need to strive for excellence in every area of our life as much as possible. But perfectionism is not excellence. In fact, if anything, I say it would be the opposite, because perfectionism is a construct of what we believe it should be, based on our very limited perspective of the world. So when you seek perfectionism, you are automatically cutting out so many other possibilities and so much potential of whatever the project is, whoever you are. It's really limiting everything that could be, all of the richness and the beauty of what you're trying to create. When you seek perfectionism, it's just not going to turn out anywhere near what it could if you just let go and let loose a little bit more. The other thing about perfectionism, and this is coming from my own personal experience and what I know, is perfectionism comes out of a lack of confidence and a lack of self-esteem. And so because we don't trust ourselves, we don't have confidence in ourselves, we overlay this whole aspect of perfection because we use it as a replacement and as a crutch for just developing ourselves more and learning to accept who we are more and building up our own confidence and coming from this original source of power. All right, I have to pause the video for a little bit. My son just came home. So part of this authenticity video is usually the things that I try to minimize or hide in the background when I'm filming videos. I'm just going to be upfront about it. So yeah, I have a very busy household with people coming and going and doors slamming and cats meowing, and it's my life and I love it. It's very full. So truth number 2 is vulnerability breeds courage. When you have the strength and the courage and you're brave enough to be vulnerable, which is something that's very, very difficult for me, and I think difficult for a lot of people because we don't want to be hurt, because being hurt frankly just sucks. But when you open yourself up to that possibility and just let yourself be vulnerable and be open to anything that could happen, and don't put up all of those protective barriers and defenses, it really does. First of all, it makes you practice courage, because just that act alone requires that you be very brave. The other thing is, as you move through life and you do this more and more and more, you're basically building up your courage muscle. As you continue to push yourself to be more vulnerable and be more open, you get better and better at braving the storms, at being brave enough to do the things that terrify you, do the things that scare you. It's an excellent, excellent training ground for building up courage. All right, truth number 3, self-judgment is your enemy. And it also makes you an enemy of those around you too. So self-judgment it's really hard not to do. We are often our own most vicious critic. We often will hold ourselves up to standards that we won't hold other people to. And sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's good if you set the bar high for yourself. But there are times where it's really detrimental. And I know in a lot of cases I'll hold myself up to standards in the most ridiculous areas of my life, the areas that really don't matter. And it goes back to this perfectionism, this ego, fear-based way of living, where instead of being open to true, authentic experiences and the richness and the fullness that life could be, I'm closing myself off because I'm trying to be super perfect or really protect myself and put up tons of layers of armor between me and someone else. And when I'm doing that, I get into this place of very, very strict and harsh self-judgment. It drains you of energy, it drains you of your creative spark, it drains you of joy and happiness. The other thing is, whatever filter you place on yourself when you are judging yourself, you can't help but have that reflected on the way that you are viewing other people. And then you start judging other people very harshly. And people can sense that and feel it. It puts up these walls between you and others, and it makes real connection, it makes real community, the ability to both give and receive support, give and receive love. It makes that completely impossible when we are in this place of judging ourselves and judging others. It's a difficult thing to overcome and try to eliminate from your life. And it's not something that it's a one and done thing where you ever truly get the knack of it and you're you're done. You're not a judgmental person. It comes pretty naturally. So we have to catch ourselves in the moment when we're doing it. We have to be aware of it and conscious of it, and then consciously stop ourselves and say, you know what do I really know anyway? And that is a great question to ask yourself when you find yourself in these moments of judgment, is to ask, what do I really know anyway? What do I really know about the criteria or the standards that I absolutely should be living up to? What do I really know about what's going on in someone else's life and why they are behaving that way? Give yourself the benefit of the doubt. I think a lot of times we live so much in our head, we feel like we have to have it figured out at a very intellectual level, and we don't allow for the other aspects of our personality and our soul to come through and fill in the blank spaces of our life. We don't allow for our instinct and our soul and our emotion and our heart and all of these other areas of guidance that truly make up a full, healthy human being. When we're living too much in our head, we're shutting ourselves off from instinct. And when you are living from a place of instinct and you're being self-judgmental, the judgment tends to be less because you just kind of go with what you feel. But when your head enters the picture, that's when it starts getting muddy. And the same with other people. When you are judging other people, you don't know what's going on in their life. You don't know the reality that they're dealing with. You don't know why they've chosen to say that thing or to act in that particular way. And I know we have all had this experience where we have judged someone really harshly, very critically, only to find out later that the reason they did something or the reason they behaved in that way was because they were struggling with a huge, huge challenge. And then we just feel terrible. We feel terrible when we know the truth of why someone has done something that we maybe perceive negative. Truth number 4, connecting beats impressing. This one is hard for me. I like to feel that I have other people's esteem and other people's respect. That fills me up in probably more than it should. So I have to fight really hard against this natural default instinct that I think it's a coping mechanism that I've learned to adopt to deal with just the world since I was, a kid. And that is just, wanting to step out in front of someone and feel like you're better than. And yeah, it may give you a little bit of a boost of like, oh, okay, yeah, that's great for a very, very short period of time. But when that takes the place of truly connecting with someone, and more often than not, it really does, wow, you are losing out on the true essence of what it means to live a good life, that connection with other people, that building rapport with someone else, that forming those bonds and those relationships that build the fabric of a gorgeous, amazing life and fuel us and push us forward in ways that we never could dream of just on our own. And there's that famous quote, "No man is an island." And when we go about trying to impress others versus trying to connect with them, we are setting ourselves up to be isolated. Whether you realize it or not, you're forming the structure of isolation when you go after just trying to impress someone. There are times, of course, where we do want to put our best foot forward, and you should put your best foot forward. But there's a way to do it where it's just politeness and out of respect for someone else versus trying to impress them. And in that way, you are connecting with them. You are connecting the best parts of you with the best parts of them versus always trying to impress. The other thing that I love to remember when I'm thinking through this or trying to catch myself in the moment when I'm trying to impress someone else is whenever I stop and take a step back and step out of myself and truly listen to someone else and truly get to understand who they are and what makes them tick and their life experiences, I'm always blown away. And people are just incredible. The richness of the experiences that they've had that build who they are, it's amazing. We have all had these incredible, fabulous lives, and we don't always get to share that with other people. We're connecting with them in so many different ways, and usually very limited, siloed ways. And so when we do get that chance truly understand the fullness of someone and the breadth of their experience, what a tremendous gift. What a tremendous gift it is for us, and then what a tremendous gift it is for them to be seen. And you truly do get what you give. So when you stop and pause and understand where someone else is coming from and connect with them, it's a two-way street. It can't help but be a two-way street. So they, in turn, will see you and connect with you and who you truly are and the depth and breadth of your experience. And there's no feeling that replaces that. No amount of impressing someone or being looked up to, that it pales in comparison to that true heart-to-heart connection that we form with other people when we stop trying to impress them and start focusing on connecting with them. So those are 4 truths about authenticity that I have come to know and understand as I've been exploring this topic and thinking about it and digging into my psyche of what I believe about it and what I think about it. I would love to hear your thoughts on the subject. What are some truths about authenticity that you have learned? Please share them in the comments, and I would love to dialogue about it. I would love to discuss it. I think it's something that we should think about more often and strive to instill in our lives more. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to this channel. Would love to have you as a subscriber. I put out videos every Wednesday on many different topics. So I would love to build that connection with you. And also comment. I'd love to talk to you about the topic of authenticity or any other topic that you would like to cover.